Welcome to the Outlap F1 Podcast, F1 for Beginners series. Today's episode is dedicated to providing you with a soup-to-nuts look at the sport we love and we love to talk about, Formula One. All right, so now we'll move into our team-by-team breakdown. I believe we've got them set up in the order of where they finished in the constructors' standings last season, which brings us to the American team. I guess there's two ways to look at it. They're either the most unlucky or the unluckiest team right now, or maybe it's karma for picking terrible title sponsors 2 times in a row now. So they could probably use some help with that. But of course, I'm referring to Haas, who finished in 10th place last year with a total of 0 points. I think they had a couple top 15 finishes. I want to say all of them were assisted by the fact that a lot of cars retired ahead of them. That's Haas for you. Their headquarters are in Cannapolis, which I have found out it's referred to as K-Town for you local types. Cannapolis.
You got to put some southern
swing. Cannapolis.
Cannapolis.
They do have a satellite building in the United Kingdom. They're powered by Ferrari engines. Their team principal is Gunther Steiner, who you'll recognize from Drive to Survive fame. They have entered 122 Grands Prix. Their highest finish ever being 4th for a race and 5th for constructors finish for a full season there. Haas is unique in that they take full advantage of the rules currently in place to govern what parts a constructor buys versus produces on their own for their car. Haas buys as many different parts as allowed from Ferrari and even outsources their chassis construction to Dallara. All right, so they do have 2 drivers. The first one we'll talk about is Mick Schumacher, son of ultra-famous Michael Schumacher of Ferrari fame. He's also from Germany, obviously. He drives the number 47 car. This is his 2nd season in F1. He did finish in 19th last season, had 0 points, but did finish in 19th ahead of his then teammate and Robert Kubica, who got in there for a race. So his best finish was 12th in Hungary, which was a wild race. It only had 13 legal finishers, so he finished in 12th. But as I mentioned, that's mostly because of all the cars that retired. He is a highly rated young driver with massive earning potential thanks to that extremely famous last name of his. He is a Ferrari Academy driver whose ultimate destiny seems to be with the Scuderia. So we'll see when that happens with a little point of contention on the podcast. But Ferrari seems pretty comfortable with Charles Leclerc extending him. And there are some rumors floating around that Carlos Sainz extension should be announced sometime soon. All right, so moving on to the second driver, which thankfully we pushed this recording back to today because we had no idea who was going to be until today. So that's very Haas-like. And that is going to be a familiar face, Kevin Magnussen, coming back to Haas. He is the only Danish driver on the grid. He drives the number 20 car. This will now be his 7th season in F1. He was not in F1 last season after getting dropped from Haas after the 2020 season, where he finished in 20th place with 1 championship point. He is the son of sports car driver Jan Magnussen, and he's returning to Formula One in a shock announcement, as I mentioned today. So that's pretty exciting. K-Mag seems to be a bit of a fan favorite. He got a lot more love, I guess, than I kind of expected on Twitter today, so that was nice to see. Haas's 2022 livery is also a bit of a mystery. Currently, it's pretty much just white with Haas on the side, so we're expecting to see maybe a little bit of difference, but probably nothing too drastic. Their main colors are white, red, and black, so it'll probably be something along those lines, maybe a little bit of gray if they're feeling a little crazy. So that's about it for Haas. Now I'll move into Alfa Romeo, who finished in 9th place last year with 13 total points. Their headquarters is in Hinwil, Switzerland. That's how it's pronounced. Powered by the Ferrari engines. Their team principal is Frederick Vasseur. They have entered a total of 170 Grands Prix. They do have 10 wins, with the last one being all the way back in 1951, the Spanish Grand Prix by F1 legend Juan Manuel Fangio. Which, side note on him, there is a documentary out there on him. I want to say it might still be on Netflix, but if not, just give that a Google. It's a pretty good one. Watched it on a flight just a couple months ago. So they have 0 Constructors Championships and 2 Drivers Championships in their history. That was way back in 1950 and 1951 by Juan Manuel Fangio. Alfa has a long, complicated history in F1 with numerous name changes. So they are unique because they have 2 new drivers to their team this year. Valtteri Bottas, start with him. He finished 3rd place last year, thanks to the fact that he was driving a Mercedes. He did have 226 points. He drives the number 77 car. This will be his 10th season in F1. He's got a total of 10 wins and 67 podiums. I believe he's only driven for Williams and then Mercedes and now Alfa Romeo. So 3 total teams for him. He is now finally out of Lewis Hamilton's shadow with a chance to have a car as mediocre as it may be, built to suit his driving style, and also kind of mentor his main rival, his teammate, which I meant to ask you guys for help on how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to go for it. I think it's Guan Yu Zhou. He is China's first full-time Formula One driver. He chose, and actually this is pretty cool, I found this out when I was doing a little research on him. He chose number 24 as his number in order to honor his sports hero, the late, great Kobe Bryant. He's a young driver starting his first year in F1 with significant financial backing, helping him acquire his seat. He finished in 3rd last year in F2 with 2 feature race wins and 2 sprint race wins. The Alfa livery is very similar to years past with a red and white scheme with a big Alfa Romeo logo on the engine cover as the main sponsor, except the red and white are now flipped again, because they kind of just have done that a couple of years in a row. That's basically the same thing I wrote about him last year, so that was a pretty easy one. But the font is different, and I think it's pretty cool. So that's it for Alfa Romeo.
All right, so next up, coming in 8th last season, is Williams. They scored 23 points, which is a marked improvement from the prior season of 0. Anyway, they are based in Grove in the United Kingdom. They are powered by a Mercedes engine, and their team principal is Jos Capito. They are entering their 48th season in F1 with 775 Grand Prix enter, 114 wins, the 4th most all-time by a constructor, and 9 Constructors' Championships, which is the 2nd most in F1 history for a constructor. So the last race win for them was in 2012 at the Spanish Grand Prix by Pastor Maldonado. And their last driver's champion was Jacques Villeneuve in 1997. And that same year, they scored their last Constructors' Championship. So last season, Williams secured their highest position in the Constructors' standings since 2017 and scored their first points since 2019. The teams, they've made some positive strides last season and their first full season under new ownership, the American investment firm Dorilton Capital. So their drivers this year, new to the team, is Alex Albon. He used to be in Red Bull, was a Toro Rosso, then promoted to Red Bull, then was dropped, and last season was the Red Bull reserve driver, and now Williams are bringing him in. So his car number is 23. He races under the Thai flag. He is entering his 3rd full season in F1. He has 38 race starts, 2 podium finishes, and 25 points finishes. So last season, as I mentioned, he was a Red Bull reserve driver. He also raced in DTM, which is a sports car championship in Europe. And this year, when he returns to Williams, he will still have that Red Bull sponsorship, so you will see that on his helmet. His teammate is Nicholas Latifi, and in the championship last year, he came in 17th, but he did score his first points last season. So he races in car number, that's not right, and I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Car number 6.
6, thank you. And races under the Canadian flag. He is definitely considered a pay driver because his father is a billionaire and gives the team millions and millions of dollars, I'm sure. So he is entering his 3rd season in F1, and last season he had those 2 points finishes, the first of his career, and finished with a total of 7 points overall. So for Williams this season, their livery is overall a dark blue livery with some light blue and red accents. And it looks different in different lightings, so think of it as you will. There are mixed opinions.
All right, so next we're going to get into what we on the podcast deem to be the midfield teams, and that will start with 7th place with 77 points last year, that being Aston Martin. They are headquartered in Silverstone, United Kingdom. They are also powered by Mercedes engines, and their team principal is Mike Crack. They originally joined Formula One way back in 1959, but only actually entered 6 events across 2 seasons, and then left the sport. They did not rejoin the sport under that name, at least, until 2021. As a whole, if you count their previous time the sport and then last year's, they have entered 28 Grand Prix. They have 0 wins and 1 podium. The last race that they were in before leaving the first time was the 1960 British Grand Prix, so way back in the day. And their last podium was a very chaotic 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku, where Sebastian Vettel secured a 2nd place finish after both MaxVerstappen and LewisHamilton both went out of the points due to weird and fluke situations. The team did very little development last season and made the decision pretty early on to focus essentially all of its attention on the brand new car for 2022 because of the drastic rule changes that we spoke about in prior episodes. So as a result, the 2021 car was, as expected, very lackluster in its performance. Their 2 drivers, we'll start with the first one being Sebastian, or Seb, as he's known, Vettel. He finished in 12th last season in the driver's standings. He races under car number 5 under the German flag. He has one of the best looking helmets, according to Deanna, and I tend to agree with her in most years. Looking forward to seeing it this year. He is a 4-time world champion, with the last being back in 2013. He has 53 wins under his belt, 122 podiums, but his last win was way back in 2019 at the Singapore Grand Prix. He's now entering his 14th season in Formula One, and like I said, he was a significant title contender even through most of the 2010s with his Ferrari days. However, he has struggled the last couple of seasons. So with the new rejuvenated 2022 car, and a lot of attention on its development, he will hope to be a force near the front of the field again. Their next driver is Lance Stroll. He is the son of the owner of the team, Lawrence Stroll, who is a multi-billionaire in himself. Lance came into the sport essentially as a paid driver. I would say that over the last few years, he has shown to have actual decent racecraft. But he essentially came into the sport as his father purchased the seat license, essentially, by donating an enormous amount of money to the team at that time. He races under car 18 under the Canadian flag. He was previously known to be a pretty terrible qualifier for most of his career, definitely more of a Sunday driver, but he did show substantial improvement and did get his first ever pole in 2020. This is his 6th season in Formula One coming up. He has 3 career podiums and 0 race wins to his name. For a livery, the Aston Martin is really going to stand out on track this year. Gone are the days that they are sponsored by BWT, which was dictated that they have a very bright pink on the car. They have now turned that green or that pink into a beautiful classic lime green accent, and they've gone with a classic Aston Martin green racing livery. It's a stunning livery on track, and I think it'll be one of the fan favorites throughout the year.
All right, so next up, AlphaTauri. Last season, they came in 6th with 142 points. So they are headquartered in Faenza, Italy. I know I butchered that, so sorry to all Italians. And they are powered by RedBull powertrains. It's air quotes Honda. False over that. And their team principal is Franz Tost. So they have entered 307 Grand Prix with 2 race wins and 5 podiums. They are rebranded from Toro Rosso to AlphaTauri for starting in the 2020 season as a way for Red Bull to promote the company's high-end fashion line of the same name. So their only race win, well, the first race win for this team came in 2008 in Italy with a very young Sebastian Vettel, and as well, they won in 2020 with a very feel-good win in Italy by Pierre Gasly. So it is now being touted as Red Bull's sister team instead of their junior team, and their first driver is Pierre Gasly still. So last season, he came in 9th in the driver's standings. Overall, he has entered 86 Grand Prix, has that 1 race win, as well as 3 podiums. And overall, had a very, very solid year for AlphaTauri. Clearly far and away the points leader of that team and was consistently qualifying in the top 6. So his teammate is the young Yuki Tsunoda. He is car number 22, and last season he came in 14th. He is entering his 2nd season in F1. He has entered a total of 22 Grand Prix, with his best finish coming at the season finale last year in Abu Dhabi, and he came in 4th. So went through some rookie growing pains last year, but finishing on that high note, hopefully he comes out swinging this season. So this livery this year, again, we're sticking with the navy and the white. I think personally it looks very similar to the past 2 years, some variations here and there, but that's what their colors are.
I think if you would have just asked me who finished in 4th place last year in Abu Dhabi, I would have never guessed Yuki Tsunoda. I completely forgot about that. That's crazy.
Always forget that Sainz was on that podium.
Same. It's like all you ever think about is
top
crazy.
2, and I was like, what happened?
All right, moving into the first of our works teams, that would be Alpine, and they were formerly known as, if you are a bit of a historian, they were formerly known as Renault. They came in 5th last year in the Constructors' Championship. They are headquartered in Enstone in the United Kingdom, and their team principal is the former Racing Point and Aston Martin team principal, Otmar Safnauer, who will report to Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi for 2022. Alpine has 425 GPs entered over the years of being in and out of F1 with 21 race wins, the last of which came in 2021, that at the Hungarian GP piloted by Esteban Ocon. They have 2 drivers' championships to their name and 2 constructors' championships as well. They won both of these in 2005 and 2006 while being led by Fernando Alonso. And that aforementioned Fernando Alonso is back. This is his 2nd year since coming out of retirement yet again. So he drives number 14. He finished 10th in the Drivers' Championship in 2021. He is a 2-time Drivers' World Champion, as I said, 2005 and 2006. He has 333 career starts. He's scored 32 wins, 22 pole positions, and 98 podiums. He's been known throughout his career as a bit of a hothead sometimes on the radio. He's famous for calling the Honda power unit a quote, GP2 engine, but he's also known for an exceptional high talent rating and some exceptional racecraft, as was on display last year, particularly with some great defense at that Hungarian Grand Prix, enabling Esteban Ocon to take the win. He also encouraged his teammate in another race to, air quote, defend like a lion. So, Fernando is definitely a fan favorite. The question will be, do we see the fruits of what he calls El Plan in 2022? So I think that's the question for him. Alpine's other driver is Esteban Ocon. He drives number 31. He races under a French flag. He finished 11th in the Drivers' Championship in 2022. Esteban has 89 career F1 starts. He scored that 1 win in the Hungarian GP in 2021 and now has 2 career podiums to his name. 2022 saw Ocon have the best showings of his career. Obviously, the win in Hungary, a P4 at Saudi Arabia, where he just missed out on a podium. He's been always very highly rated. He was in the Merck Academy for a number of years. However, I believe has his best shot for success with Alpine. He's French. The team is French. Can the car deliver? I think that's the big question. In 2022, Alpine received not only a new team principal, but the team has secured BWT as its title sponsor. So we will be seeing the distinctive Pink Panther livery at the first 2 GPs of the season. And then they will flip to their blue over the pink livery moving forward throughout the rest of 2022. So moving forward in P4 last year, we find the Papaya Warriors of McLaren. They finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship with 275 points. They are headquartered in Woking in the United Kingdom. They are powered by Mercedes engines. Their team principal is Andreas Seidel. McLaren has 905 GPs entered. That is the second most. With 183 race wins. That is also the second most. 12 Drivers' Championships. Again, second most. And 8 Constructors' Championships. that is tied for the third most. McLaren's last Drivers' Championship was secured in 2008 by LewisHamilton. The last Constructors' Championship was in 1998 by Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard. McLaren is one of the legendary teams in F1 history, on their way back to consistently being on the sharp end of the grid after some very dark years, particularly 2015 through 2018. They had a hard-fought battle with Ferrari in 2021 for third in the Constructors' Championship. They did slip back near the end of the season. However, on a high note, they did secure their first race win since 2012 with Daniel Ricciardo's win in Monza in 2021. Their two drivers heading into the 2022 season are unchanged from last year. Driving car 3 is Daniel Ricciardo. He finished 8th in the Drivers' Championship in 2021. In 210 career starts, he has 8 wins, 3 pole positions, and 32 career podiums. Ricciardo, I think the best thing about him is he's very happy to see the prior year car in his rearview mirror because he struggled to adjust to the unique driving style of the McLaren in the early part of the season, but started to find his footing later on in that same season. The other driver is in car number 4 would be Lando Norris. From the UK, he finished 6th in the drivers' standings in 2021, developing a rep as definitely a late charger, air quote, the last lap Lando. That's become a thing in the last couple of years. He's starting his 4th season as an F1 driver. He has 60 GPs entered, 1 pole position, 5 podiums, and his best career finish is 2nd. That also came in Monza in 2021. Lando is very prominent on Twitter and on various racing sims, including Twitch, different social media. He's basically all over the place. In terms of the livery, McLaren's one of our favorite cars on the grid. They have a very distinctive Papaya livery with some blue accents, making for a very busy livery, but a very beautiful car, I think, at the end of the day.
All right, so moving into the front runners, and this first team is a team, it feels like it's been forever since we referred to them as a front runner. That is Ferrari, who finished in 3rd place in a very tightly contested battle with McLaren. They finished with 323.5 points, so that annoying half point is in there, which will bother us forever. They're headquartered in Maranello, Italy. They are powered, of course, by Ferrari engines. Their team principal is Mattia Binotto, who I've talked quite a bit of shit about, even as a huge Ferrari fan in years past. However, I'm a changed man, and I'm going to go into this season with an open mind towards Mattia. I do like the direction the team's going, so I'm going to try my best not to say anything bad about him until he truly deserves it. So we'll see how long that takes. They have the most ever starts in Formula One with 1,030 Grands Prix. They have 238 race wins, which is the most ever. They have 15 Drivers' Championships, which is the most ever. They have 16 Constructors' Championships, which is also the most ever. 778 podiums, which is the most ever. 53 consecutive podiums at one point, which is the most ever. 230 pole positions, which is the most ever. 254 fastest laps, which is the most ever. And 9,613 constructors' points, which, you guessed it, is the most ever. That is always John's favorite part, I think, of any episode we do all season. Known worldwide as the best racing team to ever touch a track. However, this is a little bit of bad news. They haven't won a Drivers' Championship since 2007 with the Iceman, Kimi Räikkönen, and haven't won a Constructors' Championship since 2008. So they're due, and I think this is the team to do it. We start off with Charles Leclerc, driving the number 16. He hails from Monaco. Last year finished in 7th place. This was his 4th season at Ferrari. He lost out on 5th place in the driver's standing on the last race of the season. Might not seem like it was the 7th place finish as a Ferrari driver, but I thought overall he had a pretty good year. But I do expect really good things out of him because he will be pushed by none other than Carlos Sainz, who drives the 55 car and comes from Spain. He finished in 5th last year after an excellent first season with the Scuderia. It feels like he was probably the most successful of any driver that changed teams last year. He finished the season with a quiet podium finish, as we mentioned before, thanks to the hysteria that was the finale. It'll be interesting to see how he coexists with Leclerc. Again, this season, he bested his teammate last year as I mentioned, on that last race of the season. And Leclerc is still believed to be the slight favorite within Ferrari, but science can change that quickly with a strong start to the year. Ferrari likes to go with the successful driver, and if he's that one, he will be the main guy. And then I think John's prediction might come true of Schumacher earlier than I may have wanted. Ferrari is the most recognizable and iconic car on the track. Of course, it's red this year. No gradients anymore, thank God. It actually looks really awesome. In fact, it's the number one livery on the grid, according to this podcast. And little by little, I think Deanna might join me as Ferrari fans on this podcast. Typically, I am one man all alone in defending the Ferrari honor. But I think just little by little, Deanna is gonna join me.
I think James tends to see things he wants to see.
She loves the drivers.
Very aspirational.
She loves the livery. She's predicting them to win. I don't know.
Nope. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Red Bull came in second in the constructors last season with 585.5 points. They are headquartered in Milton Keynes in the UK, and they are powered by Red Bull powertrains by Reed Honda. Team principal is Christian Horner. They have entered 326 Grand Prix, have 75 race wins, 5 drivers' championships, and 4 constructors' championships. So Red Bull, they had an extremely strong 2021 season as they pushed Mercedes to the very end. They still had a chance to come out with the constructors as well going into Abu Dhabi. But they did spend a huge amount of time and money developing that 2021 car. So we will see if that has compromised them in 2022 or not, although they have some pretty radical looking side pods, courteous of Adrian Newey, and we will see what happens there. So their number one driver for all the way until 2028 at this point is Max Verstappen. So he typically drives car number 33, but will run the number 1 in 2022 as the reigning drivers champion. He is Dutch and he is entering his 8th season in F1 despite only being 24, which makes me feel really old. Considered by many to be one of the best drivers on the grid. He has 20 race wins, 13 pole positions, and 60 podiums. He definitely quickly emerged as the favorite last season and just hard fought with Lewis all the way through. And it did end in a kind of controversial finish, but he did secure his very first driver's title. So his teammate is Sergio Perez, and he drives car number 11. And he came in 4th in the driver's standings last year. So he is entering his 12th season in F1 with 215 races entered, 2 race wins, and 15 podiums. So 2021 was the first time in his career that he really truly had a consistent race-winning capable car. He was able to pull 1 win out in Baku last year. Overall, he had a pretty good season in 2021 in a notoriously difficult seat in that Red Bull second seat. But he definitely had a positive impact on Verstappen's bid for the championship and definitely played the team game as the second driver in that seat. So Red Bull continues with their classic livery with the matte finish with a large Red Bull logo on the back and contrasted against a dark blue livery.
All right, so then now we move into our final team of the night. In first place last year in the Constructors' Championship, we have Mercedes with 613.5 points. They're headquartered in Brackley, United Kingdom. They're obviously powered by their own Mercedes engines, and their team principal is Toto Wolff. They've won 8 straight Constructors' Championships, and before 2021's controversial season finale, had previously won 7 straight Constructors' Championships, or Drivers' Championships, excuse me. Since they've joined the sport, again, they've got 249 Grand Prix with 124 wins. That's 49.8 percent win ratio, 135 pole positions, which is 54% of their races, and 336 podiums between their drivers. They have essentially dominated the hybrid era since beginning in really 2014, but they did receive a significant challenge from Red Bull last year. They appeared to start the 2021 season kind of resting on their own laurels or the prior laurels, but quickly discovered that they were facing their greatest competition in quite some time in Red Bull. So as a result, like Red Bull, they were forced to spend significantly more time and money developing their 2021 car, especially towards the end of the season when they were hoping to secure their 8th Constructors' Championship and give Lewis Hamilton a car that was capable of getting him back into the title fight and led him to be tied on points with Max Verstappen going into the final race of the season. So, like with Red Bull, only time will tell if that the sacrifices that they made in 2021 and pushing that car to the absolute limit, if that'll hinder them in 2022 and moving forward. Although, like Red Bull, it is rumored that they will unveil a very radical car design at the Bahrain test coming up later this week. But we shall see what that looks like and if it's actually fast on track. So there are 2 drivers for the season. Their number 1 driver, there was some rumors that he might retire after the controversial ending last year, but he is back and looking for vengeance, as he says. We have the number 1 driver, Lewis Hamilton. He finished in 2nd last year in the points. He's entering his 16th season in Formula One. That also makes you feel old. He races car 44 under the British flag. He is a 7-time world champion, tied for the most with Michael Schumacher. He has 288 race starts, 249 points finishes, which is 86.5% of his of the time he finishes in the points. He has 103 race finishes, which, like Ferrari, is the most of all time. You'll see his theme here. That's 35%, almost 36% of his races he wins. He has 103 pole positions, which is also the most of all time. And he has 182 podiums, which is the most of all time as a driver. Entering for the 2022 season, he has a brand new teammate this year. We have George Russell, who's moving over from the Williams team into his dream drive as a Mercedes driver. Last year, he finished 15th. Again, that was with a Williams and a very not capable car. So he's looking to really strike this year and be a top force at the sharp end of the grid for sure. He's entering his 4th season in Formula One. Races under car number 63. He has 39 races under his name. He's British and he has 2 points finishes. He did sign a multi-year deal with Mercedes to be their 2nd driver. And many people believe that he's a future world champion. So he'll be challenging for race wins this year, hopefully playing the team game as well, as the team is looking to hopefully secure their 9th straight Constructors' Championship. For 2022, Mercedes is returning to their silver arrow, quote-unquote, liveries for 2022. Gone are the days where they had all black livery. They've now gone back to the silver, which will have some teal and red accents based on their sponsorship deals with Ineos and Petronas. Like we've all kind of mentioned on the podcast, the Silver Arrow was, in prior years, one of my favorite liveries. However, something about it this year just doesn't quite strike our fancy. We're not really loving the new design. However, with the new Arrow package that we may see later this week, potentially speaking, we may see some drastic changes on the livery as well. And so that rounds up our Constructors' Championship teams in their order, and I'll pass it over to James to wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you, John. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our F1 for Beginners episode for 2022. We hope you learned something, maybe reminded of something, like we were a couple times during the episode. Just to remind any new fans out there of the show or of the sport, as we get into the season, we've got one more pre-season episode that'll be probably coming out Monday, which is a typical time for us to release a podcast. That will kind of cover the testing that we're going to see over the next 3 days, as well as our season predictions, both for driver and constructors. So make sure you check that one out. That's usually a pretty fun episode. Plenty of shit talking, mostly between me and John when it comes to Ferrari and
just figuring out math on the fly is always entertaining. So tune in if nothing else for that.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a couple bets this year, maybe mix it up a little bit. So things that make it fun. So make sure you check that out. And then we'll kind of get into the normal cadence of our episodes, where on the Wednesdays of race weeks, we will record a preview episode for that race. That'll usually come out on Thursdays. And then every Sunday night, we come together to record a review episode and try to release those early Monday morning. So the U.S. fans out there can listen to it on their commute into work or on your way home, what have you. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast you listen to. Subscribe on YouTube. We're going to be on the video stuff all year long. Follow our Twitter handle. That's kind of where we announce anything new coming up or any special guests we might have throughout the year. And yeah, I mean, this is our fourth full season, I think now, John, or I guess I should say our third full season, fourth season overall. The show continues to grow, and we have you listeners out there to thank for that. So we really appreciate that. We really appreciate our supporters. LDAP Nation continues to grow, and we want to see that to continue to grow this year. So with that coming in, we're just going to make the show better and better for you, a better listening experience, better quality, all those good things. So great episode, guys. I'm excited to start the year. Hopefully it can hold a light to last season, because last season was insane. So hopefully this season is nice and fun. And maybe we get a few other challengers for the crown this season. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so that's all we have for tonight. Talk to you guys soon. Andy, take us away, sir.
As always, may all your laps be fast.